We're back, everybody. Welcome into the NJCAA Network and Junior College Hard 90. Zach McKinstry and Noah Sharp bringing you all the junior college baseball news. Noah, good to see you again.
Good to see you. Week 3. Hey, 3 weeks in a row. I think that's what they constitute a streak at this point. Two might be luck. 3, we're hitting a stride. So I'm glad to be back again. A lot of stuff happened this last week. Y'all's ranking just dropped. Mine, I think, drops next week. I shouldn't say think. I know it's dropping next week, but we're getting right into the thick of the season, and it is a great time of year.
Yeah, and rocking the Pearl River shirt and the Weatherford hat. So you got your bases covered in Mississippi and Texas for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's start with Weatherford and that new poll that just came out from the NJCAA a couple of days ago. Obviously, there are flaws with any preseason poll, but it's good to see the first week official week 1 poll from the NJCAA start to clean some of those things up. So a lot of changes for sure. The biggest risers, you got Weatherford up to number 1, and they've looked like a number 1 team. They have 13-1 record. The lone loss to Dodge City we talked about last week, and the pitching has been really, really good. It's Evan Brandt, who's got a 0.78 ERA. AJ Maera, I hope I pronounced his name correct, 4-0 on the year with 25 strikeouts. And the strikeouts per 9 for this Coyotes team is really, really good. You've got elsewhere in Texas, Midland up to number 3 from being unranked in the preseason poll. They're an undefeated team, another one out of Region 5, averaging 13.6 runs per game. And then the Florida schools, Northwest Florida State at number 5, College of Central Florida at number 9, Indian River State at 15, and Gulf Coast State at number 16, all of which those climbing in the NJCAA rankings. So what stood out to you, Noah?
So this is going to date me a little bit, but one thing that was always said back when I was in school, Region 5, yes, I'm a homer. I get it. It's what made me. So sue me, I guess. But Region 5, we used to always say it's tougher to get out of the region than it is when you get to Grand Junction, which now I don't think is the case when you get to Grand Junction. But if you look at it, you have Weatherford at 1 for you guys, Midland at 3, McLennan at 7, and then and then you've got New Mexico receiving votes. So 5 teams in probably the top 30 for y'all are all vying for 1 spot to go to Grand Junction. Another team, we kind of talked about this a little bit off air, but one team I'm really excited to see in the rankings. El Paso is a team we talked about last week. They've been really hot on the bats, and then beating Western Oklahoma 2-3 this past week. Seeing them get the shine, because that's not normally the team that when you're looking at doing these rankings, you're like, oh, I mean, yeah, they've been good, but how good have they been? And this just shows that the voters for y'all really kind of are getting into the weeds a little bit more than normal, with El Paso getting that 25 rank. I don't think they've been in the rankings since I think my 3rd year at Howard, which, yep, hey, I was a 3-year junior college person. It happens, guys. But I mean, it's awesome to see it. I mean, Midland at 3, they've been killing everyone, like you said. Northwest Florida's been killing everybody. Again, I think Florida Southwestern and Northwest Florida was a regional final game a couple years ago. But where everything sits right now, there's a lot to like. There's some teams I still think have a little bit more to show. But yeah, I mean, I'm ready for the D2 and D3 ones to get updated, I should say.
Yeah, those coming up on the way in the next couple of weeks. Also in the D1 poll falling is Blinn, Iowa Western, and Johnson County. All of those teams taking some hits after ranked really high in the preseason polls. But let's look at some upsets. First things first, Division I, the big upset from last week was Crowder, who were beat in 3 out of 4 by Rose State. I don't know if anybody saw that one coming. Cole Barton had 2 saves in the series for the Raiders. Crowder drops to 6-7 on the season, and they didn't pick up their 7th loss until late March last year, as they finished 45-19 last campaign.
Crowder, it's still early. I mean, Rose State's going to surprise everybody. They're kind of that scrappy team in Oklahoma, not one that you usually think would pull off this kind of upset. But hey, awesome for them to do it, which just means, I think we said in the first episode, how deep Oklahoma is as a whole this year. But I think they beat Labette Monday or Tuesday this week, or earlier this week, I should say. And so they're going to hit their stride. It's going to be tough. I think if anyone can turn it on and only to have the same record as last year, they can do it. It's not going to be easy, but I mean, they know how to win over there. And it's not, and I mean, they've had a tougher schedule with Iowa Western, Johnson County. So tough preseason schedule is only going to make you tougher when you get to conference.
Moving on, you got a Florence Darlington Tech team that was striving last week. They had the big series win over Gaston, also took a midweek game over Brunswick. But in that Rhinos series, they lost game one with 4 errors, bounced back in game two with 5 unanswered runs in the 6th, 7th, and 8th to take that second game. And then in game three, 13 runs in the bottom of the 5th after trailing by 2. And that was 5 walks, 3 hit by pitches, an error, and a grand slam in that bottom of the 5th inning to put up that 13 spot and win 20-9. Series MVPs for me, for Gaston, Daniel Paris, 5 hits, 4 extra bases, and 2 home runs for him. And then for Flodar, Gabe Harold, 7 RBIs, including a grand slam in game 3. And then Zach Hunt had 4 hits throughout the series and 4 RBIs. So is there a name to remember out of this series for you?
I mean, you've said the 2 big ones. I think I think they play the very last week of the season. And so this is always a chippy matchup as it is, but this being having to have playing them the last game of the season or last series of the season, I think this is only going to fuel the fire with how Gaston got beat that last game. It's going to leave a sour taste in their mouth. So I can only imagine that last series, pencil it in there. That one's going to be something to really watch come the end of the year.
On to Division II, and another big upset as Heartland fell to the Harper Hawks in 2 games last week. First games at the Division II level for Harper. They are now 2-0 on the season for the first time since 2007. And in that game, the bats were hot. Joey Glozier, 5 for 7, 2 home runs, and 8 RBIs for the transfer from West Georgia. And then the other big name was Dominic Jacoby, 4 for 7, 6 runs, a homer, and he's a transfer from Spoon River. So that was a bit of a surprise when you saw that one in the box scores. But what did you think about the Harper and Heartland matchup?
I was actually talking to their head coach, who's I think one of the youngest head coaches in the country right now. I think he's only like 24, 25. Like, he's not an old dude. I think he's a Harper alum. But this was only like the second time they've been outside this whole spring, was this game or these 2 games. So they're announcing their presence in the Division II realm, especially in that region, in a big way. And I know they were super excited. He texted me right after, like, dude, we just pulled this off. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see what they can do the rest of the season. I know they're a younger staff, but hey, sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you know it, which hopefully that is the case for them this year.
Elsewhere, preseason number 2, East Central demolished Kirkwood 11-2 in a midweek. ECCC walked 11 times. And then starter Bryson Goff earned the win. 7 innings, 7 strikeouts for him, only allowing 1 earned run. He was 6-0 in 9 starts last year and is out to just as good a start this season. 3-0 in 3 appearances and 12.18 strikeouts per 9 over his 17 innings. So anything strike you about that ECCC win?
They're back to their ways of old. I don't think they skipped a beat from last year. They got that at large bid at the end of the year, and they're proving that they should have been that at large bid, and B, that they're making just a strong enough case, because I know the committee does take in kind of your whole body of work, not just how you finish at the end of the year. So this could be a win at the end of the year. Say they fall in the Region 23 tournament, like, this could be a kind of marquee win for them, just to say, hey, here's on our resume, we did this to a team that most likely or more than likely is going to be in that case for that bid from Region 11 or the Midwest, whatever district that is. But I could only see this as another feather in their cap of them kind of becoming one of those top tier teams in Mississippi.
And then the last thing I had for Division II, we're filming this at 6:10 on a Wednesday night here on the East Coast, but Jones and Pearl River just wrapped up, and Jones and the Bobcats upset Pearl River on a walk-off home run in the bottom of the 9th inning. They were down 3-0 in that game, 4 unanswered runs, capped off with that solo homer from TJ Dunsford, who finished 3 for 5 in that contest. He's been really good to start the season since transferring from Lurland B. Wallace last year. And then Bryson Smith tossed 4 scoreless innings out of relief and looked really good for Jones. So more chaos in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm. I know this is one I think we keyed on last week, like, hey, this is happening in the midweek, and it turned out just as big as we thought. And these midweek tri-series things they've got going on in Mississippi are awesome. They always cause chaos. And I think there's another one happening next week with a couple teams. So, I mean, as we've said the last couple of weeks, Mississippi is awesome. It's a juggernaut of a region to get through. And with the loss of LSU Unis in that region and that moving Division One, the chaos is just going to get better. And the Region 23 tournament is just going to get better. Not because you're losing a team, but because you're going to have another team from Mississippi vying for that spot. So I'm here for the chaos in Mississippi. I will make it out there one day to see this in person. But until then, I will watch it from all the awesome streaming services you guys have, because all of y'all love your junior college ball over there. But man, we need to get out there at one point.
Oh yeah, and this streaming was courtesy of Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, but really competitive in Mississippi to start the year at the D2 ranks, and it's going to be fun to watch unfold. Let's move to Division III. You've got Dallas College Eastfield taking down some ranked D2 opponents. They took 2 of 3 against Des Moines area and also had an 8-6 midweek win over NOC Tonkawa. Big names for Eastfield. Jorge Herrera, 6 hits in those 4 games, 2 doubles and 7 RBIs after hitting .349 and slugging .557 last year for the Harvester Bees. And then Josh Blanco was 2 for 3 with a double, a home run, and 2 RBIs in Game 2 against Des Moines area. And then the other big game from Division III slate was RCSJ Gloucester. Started their season back into the groove of things, 2-0 with wins over Chesapeake College, a 3-2 win in Game 1, and then they blew the doors off them in Game 2. I think they put up 12 runs in 7 innings of work. So Noah, your thoughts on those 2 performances?
Eastfield, I think, is showing that, I mean, they've been in the last 3 national titles for a reason. They're locked, they're loaded. We had them, I think, preseason number 5 for us. I know they were ranked high for y'all. So they're going to be just as tough as ever. I know Dallas is, I think it's their first week of the Dallas Community College Athletic Conference season this week, but Dallas is going to be crazy as ever. I know they've had an at-large bid the last couple of years. I think Eastfield was the at-large bid last year. So wouldn't be surprised if, again, talking about how East Central got that big win, these 2 would be quality wins for your resume coming at the end of the year if you do not get that, automatic bid. Eastfield got it before. The committee does a really good job, especially the Division IIIs. In the past, I think they've picked teams that have been in the national title as well as winning the national title have been half of the at-large bids the last probably 5 or 6 years. So the team that gets that is a team that deserves it. So this is only going to, if Eastfield doesn't get it, or at least the automatic bid, it's going to just stamp their case for that at-large bid. And then for Gloucester, I'm so happy they finally got to play. I think they have more games this weekend. A lot of D3s are getting going. I know Century in Minnesota is getting going this weekend. I think they're playing Des Moines, who we've kind of talked about. That's going to be a big one. But D3 is finally starting. You heard my rant last week. I love the D3s. I'm so here for it. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and for Dallas College Eastfield, obviously that's the pros of scheduling a tough schedule out of conference before they get into conference play. And then for RCSJ Gloucester, they had Joe Mayer, the freshman, 3 for 7 with a double and a home run in his debut in those opening 2 games for RCSJ Gloucester. So out to a good start for the Roadrunners. And that puts a close on our recap from last week. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we've got upcoming matchups on the other side. Stay with us so you don't miss the fun matchups next week.
Intensity fuels these champion student athletes to greatness. Zurich Insurance is proud to be the official provider of student athlete insurance for the National Junior College Athletic Association. Throughout the highs, we cheer along to their screams of victory. Throughout the lows, we support them through their tears of defeat. Zurich Insurance, helping student athletes play the sport they love.
As the second largest intercollegiate athletic association in the country, the NJCAA serves not only a pivotal role in college athletics, but in higher education. The NJCAA Foundation aims to move the association forward through resources, grant programs, and other special initiatives. Your gift to the NJCAA Foundation will make a difference and create opportunities.
Welcome back into Junior College Hard 90. Time to look at some upcoming matchups this weekend and into next week. First things first, a big Division I matchup. You've got Iowa Western, currently ranked as the number 14 team in the NJCAA poll, taking on a Johnson County team that is at number 22. Both of those teams much higher in the preseason polls, but both of those teams out to a bit of a slower start. So the chance to get back on track with a series win in that one. Noah, what do you predict in that matchup of 14 and 22?
I think Iowa Western is going to have the pitching. Johnson County is going to have the bats. And I think it's going to be kind of a sword versus shield kind of thing. But I know that's one, if you follow it, I mean, if you're listening, you probably follow me. Hopefully you do, but did a whole write-up on that series. So go check that out. More thoughts that aren't all clustered as coming out of my mouth, because sometimes writing's easier than that. Another one I know we were talking about too, a big matchup in Region 14. Region 14 is getting their entire conference season started down south. I think the north side or the east side, however they word it, started last week. But you have Galveston and Alvin, my bad. Galveston's coming off of a 2-1 week, or a 1-2 week, sorry. They lost or took game 1 from McLennan and then ended up losing the next 2. And then Alvin, I believe you'll have them at 12. Lost 3 to McLennan to start the season, and then 11-game win streak. Both teams are kind of that middle of the pack road team in that south side for Region 14. But I think this is going to tell a lot when talking to coaches in that region. Multiple coaches said this is the one you kind of need to key in on. So I believe they're going to be streamed on the TSBN network. So if you're going to watch that, I mean, if you want to watch anything, watch that one. That's a good one. And then another big one happening in Texas, Region 5, another matchup, not necessarily a conference one. You got McLennan hosting NMJC. That's going to be a clash of another 2 Titans. Both, I think one's receiving votes. One, I think y'all have their top 10 maybe. I could be wrong on where McLennan is, but that's another big one for that Division I that you should keep your eye on for.
Let's move to Division II. Babe Howard Junior College Classic starts this weekend. A lot of big names in that tournament, including Heartland, Kirkwood, Wabash Valley. I know I'm missing a few more, but that's going to be a pretty fun round robin with all those teams playing each other.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you have the likes of Oklahoma coming up. You have a couple new Arkansas schools in Southeast Arkansas, Home Mountain, UA, Rich Mountain. I think I said that one right. But that's going to be, you have some teams playing 5 games in 3 days. You have other teams only playing 2. But that's another one. We're doing a preview on that one, kind of more in depth. So if you're wanting to listen to scouts and stuff and see what pitching matchups are, tune in on that. But that should hopefully be out maybe tomorrow afternoon on my end. But that one's one, they do this every year. It's a big, huge deal. I think last year they had even more tournament or more teams. I think Meridian's come up to it. But Southwest Tennessee, they hosted a bunch of tournaments because they're right there by that Tennessee Perfect Game facility. But DuPage, I know, is getting started down there. Heartland, yeah, Ellsworth. But it's going to be a lot of fun. I know one year, I say this all the time, one year I'll make it out to these things. This is one that started on the schedule that I need to make it out to one year.
Elsewhere in Division II, you've got preseason number 22 Lansing making a full Mississippi tour. They take on Colin, Hines, Mississippi Gulf Coast, Southwest Mississippi, and Pearl River this weekend. So a bit of a gauntlet for them as they start their season.
Mm-hmm. Lansing coming down, I know they're going to be able to swing it. Hopefully their bats, cold weather bats, is kind of a stigma for one of those Midwest Michigan level teams or Michigan area teams, but Lansing has shown that they can swing it with the best of them year in and year out. So this is going to be a great way to kind of get their teeth wet to start the season.
And then in Division III, you've got a bunch more teams starting this weekend. Northampton opens their season against Montgomery County. SUNY Niagara scheduled to start on Tuesday. And then another fun one on the way, preseason receiving votes. Century College gets to take on Division II number 14 team in Iowa Central. All 3 of those potentially to be good matchups, but excited to see D3 continue to get going as we finally melt our way out of this cold winter.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm excited to see Century get going. They had 2 preseason All-Americans for us, so they're going to be able to swing it. They got bats, so I'm really excited to see kind of that matchup. Personally, that's one that is going to be, I think, a lot of home runs are going to be hitting that one. I'm just going to call that right now.
That wraps up our upcoming segment. We've got the Hard 90 on the way with Noah Sharp to close out our 3rd episode of the season. So stay with us here on JUCO Hard 90.
What makes a life a good one? Is it our adventures? Or the friends we find along the way? Is it the challenges we conquer together? Maybe it's the people's lives we touch every single day. So, what makes a life a good one? You'll have to figure that one out for yourself.
Intensity fuels these champion student athletes to greatness. Zurich Insurance is proud to be the official provider of student athlete insurance for the National Junior College Athletic Association. Throughout the highs, we cheer along to their screams of victory. Throughout the lows, we support them through their tears of defeat. Zurich Insurance, helping student athletes play the sport they love.
College Hard 90, Zach McKinstry and Noah Sharp. It is time for the Hard 90. 90 seconds of Noah Sharp to talk about NJCAA baseball. Noah, you're on the clock.
Okay, so quietly, Nunes is probably one of the top offenses in the country. The record, way better than I think anyone expected. But to run down the list, these are all in the top 5. So they're currently first in runs scored in the country, first in RBIs, first in stolen bases with 89. That's wild for this point of the season. They are currently sitting third in average on-base percentage, slugging, hits, triples, and home runs. I mean, they've had 198 hits, 11 triples, 27 homers. And then leading the way for them, you got JC LaCava, who's hitting 540 on the season and is 29 for 30 in stolen bases. And then Jackson Dorian, who is hitting 417 and he's 19 for 20 in stolen bases. So the green light special is all out there happening in Louisiana. The Weatherford players this past week, we had a huge freeze down here in Texas, and they actually went out and were handing out blankets and stuff, blankets, waters, tents to homeless people down there in Fort Worth. I believe it was led by one of their guys, Fisher Polydorf. Pretty sure I butchered how to say that name, but if you know me, I can't read. I mean, I can read, can't say names. And then to round it out, we got Allegheny, CC Maryland. They had a pitcher, Nick Fella, who I believe was their Sunday night game. 7 innings, complete game shutout, striking out 10 with 3 hits and no walks. Somehow I missed it. I don't think he was y'all's pitcher of the week. That's one that kind of, sometimes they fall through the cracks, but guys got to get their just desserts on that kind of thing. So, yeah. Let's see. I don't know how close I was. I was real short last week, and I thought I almost hit it.
No, you're killing it. You're at, we're hitting 90 seconds as I speak. So really well done there on your 3 points. But congratulations. Shout out to the Weatherford team to go and do some community service with the weather tough out there in Texas last week. Cool feel-good story to wrap up our episode this week. So Noah, thanks again for hopping on and joining us for our Junior College Hard 90. Another busy week of NJCAA baseball in the books and another busy week on the way. So we'll see you next week back here on the NJCAA Network for JUCO Hard 90.